Hey, this is Pamela Riemann Schneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and this is the Produce Reporter Week in Review. Greg, I have a topical shirt on today. We're talking
Yes,
avocados.
that is very much in the news.
Yeah, very much in the news and a very much in demand. I should actually go down to my fridge and show off my case of avocados that I still have left over from Viva Fresh. I gave away a bunch, but I hoarded avocados, and it's because those avocados were not cheap. But we've got some info from Rabobank. They have a report that suggests that avocado prices should be coming down.
They sent out a report this week, and we wrote a story on it, and it's projecting the second half of this year to go down. But avocados have had a really weird year because they've had so many supply chain issues. I mean, it was only a couple months ago that they were blocked from the United States for more than a week. And then that finally opened up. And then last month we had blockades at the border, or not blockades, but extra inspections. And that got caught up in all the politics, and trucks were stopped. So that was another problem. And I think the crop has been down a little this year. So that whole combination means they've been pretty expensive at retail for consumers, and that probably is suppressing a little bit of the demand. And this week is Cinco de Mayo. So the biggest two avocado days of the year are Super Bowl and Cinco de Mayo. So now the holidays are out of the way. So I guess we'll see if better supply and lower prices help sustain them through the summer.
Yeah, my avocado contacts in the industry, when I was talking to them at Viva Fresh, all assured me that as we get into the summer is when we're going to see a little bit more stability in supply. And that's also when we're seeing supplies come from alternate places. California's season is kicking right now. I'll actually be heading to California next week to take a look at some avocados. And then we're going to see, of course, some of the Southern Hemisphere crops coming in this summer. So hopefully we will see a little more stability, but honestly, I mean, at this point, there's not a lot of change in what consumers want when it comes to avocados. I mean, for us, for our family, we continue to buy them no matter what the price is. I don't think I've seen a ceiling at which I said no as far as avocado goes, but I would actually be considered an ultra heavy, super extra, super duper avocado consumer, I guess. So I'm not casual about it.
50 pounds per year plus.
Something like that. Well, I mean, I brought home probably a 20-pound box, two of them.
Yeah, we are heavy consumers, but there are price points where we don't stop buying them, but we buy fewer.
True.
Instead
Yeah.
of buying 6 a trip, we'll buy 3 or 2.
Well, I just pick up the bag at Costco and I just blank my mind to what the bag costs. I think it's almost $9 now, retail price for one of those bags. And I just grin and bear it because that's how I shop. But we're also have a couple of stories this week, and one of them is based
before you get off the avocados, a lot of people read our column from Richard Smoley about some trendy places trying to kick up avocado boycotts. And like a lot of outrage out there, sometimes it's very misdirected, because one of the complaints is that avocados are water hogs, and Mexican avocados are not at all. They get a ton of rain there. So that is a completely misinformed boycott if that's the one they're going with.
Well, I mean, in California, when they have water issues, they stump trees and wait till the water issues come, resolve themselves. I mean, California is probably never going to resolve its water issues until we see more water hit California. But yeah, as far as I've ever heard, is that the Mexican avocados aren't really an environmental factor when it comes to that. I mean, I've heard of avocado boycotts based on cartel activity and things like that. And, I'm sure consumers would like to make an informed decision, but I'm not sure what the best information is. Perhaps trade media could help. And we get a lot of information about avocados and very little information about a lot of the weirdness that sometimes hits mainstream media. And so when I saw that article about boycotting avocados, I was like, meh. It was one of those ones that I just glossed right over and said that's not information for me. And I don't think that
No, it's not for you.
for the everyday consumer, I don't think they're going to care that much. There is a certain squeaky wheel consumer that is going to really pay attention to that stuff. But it was nice of Richard to take that up and actually dispel some of that information that you see out there.
Well, one of the examples he used was from Portland, Oregon. And as we know, a lot of craziness comes from there. And I did used to live there, so I can make fun of it if I want.
It has been a while since you lived in Oregon.
It has been a while, yes, but I definitely lived there.
They tried to adopt the Austin slogan, the Keep Austin Weird thing. They have some Keep Portland Weird things, and I don't think Portland has any danger of becoming unweird anytime soon.
I think you're correct.
Well, moving on to food service demand, we had a couple of different things talking about it. We had a press release about a study in Canada that showed that a record number of restaurants went out of business during COVID lockdowns. And honestly, not surprising, disappointing, but not surprising. It was a little weird when I was at CPMA eating in Montreal because restaurants were not as busy as I expected, but they still had a mask mandate in place, and they still had some COVID restrictions. And here I live in Texas thinking the world has gone back to normal because you don't see very much of that around here. So most restaurants are packed to the gills at every mealtime, and most restaurants have wait lists. Reservations are often recommended. I mean, we've got Mother's Day coming up this weekend. Good luck getting Mother's Day brunch if you already haven't done that. So to see that was really disappointing, and hopefully we see a bounce back from Canada.
Well, it was timed with the big restaurant show that's going to be next week in Canada. But it also included a number for the United States, and it put it at 29,000 restaurants that went out of business in the last 12 months. So it's terrible. And you hate to see businesses go out of business from things that are completely out of their control.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked a little bit just before as we were getting ready. I'm seeing a lot of new restaurants open up as well. So whenever there's around where I live, at least, whenever there's a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum, I guess is what it would be, and a new one pops up. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of empty space as far as restaurants go. So we're seeing a lot of new development, a lot of new operators come in, and a lot of new concepts, including kind of co-located restaurants where we're encouraging, and this is totally a warm weather privilege thing because we can eat outdoors almost year round here. So we're seeing a lot of food truck parks, a lot of restaurants just having a centralized space or courtyard where people eat outdoors and just order at a counter. And then that takes away the labor of waiters and waitresses. It takes away a lot of the issues with, a lot of times we're doing disposable, cutlery and stuff like that. So there's no dishwashing or anything like that. So right. Low cost operators, food trucks, taking over where other restaurants have gone south. And actually reminds me of when I was driving in Central Austin and saw a Wendy's food truck in a Burger King parking lot. I thought that was pretty funny, where the food truck had taken over where the restaurant space had not. But we also have some indications from the International Fresh Produce Association's town hall meeting this week about what's going on with food service in the United States.
Yeah, inflation was a big topic, and one of the speakers named Matthew Tate with Aramark said everything he's seeing, inflation, especially in food service, is going to keep getting worse because he thinks, and has some evidence of, a lot of both operators and suppliers not completely passing on the price increases, trying to level it out the best they can. But eventually that's going to come to a head. And what that's doing is that's delaying the inflation that's in that particular niche. And so it's going to go longer, it's going to last longer, and past when hopefully the economy starts to recover. And even Joe Watson with IFPA, he says that too. He said full food inflation hasn't been seen because it hasn't been completely passed on yet. Now the town hall was completely on food service, so it didn't take a look at the retail side of it. But it was a weird contrast between that and other speakers talking about how much food service demand has been pent up and how strong it's looking so far, especially going into summer. So it's really, kind of both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I mean, we saved our, and just anecdotally, our family saved a lot of money by not eating out a lot during the pandemic. But if you've eaten at a restaurant lately, you know that, I mean, it's not cheap right now. I mean, my family, when a family of four goes to a counter service restaurant and pays $90 for their meal, you know that things have gone, significantly up. Of course, that was a kind of a specialty restaurant. It's not your everyday ordinary meal, but we're looking at a value meal at a quick service restaurant, or I think even just like a meal at Whataburger now is at least $10, whereas it used to be $6 or $7. So that pent up demand, I think, is going to be curbed a little bit by prices, definitely, as we see inflation continue to affect consumers.
Well, we'll continue to have stories and look at where some of those cutting points are. We had another one this week about people seeing making the biggest focus of their inflation spending change related to grocery, and trying to keep that as balanced as possible, and cutting out some of the other things. So, like we've said in previous recessions, people don't stop eating, but they do eat differently. And I don't think it's been completely determined how they're going to eat differently, because coming out of a pandemic into inflation is a lot different than just economic reasons. And people might just be so sick of cooking the same things that they're willing to spend more to try different things. So where are they going to cut spending? Not outside the food industry, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that stays constant in our household, at least, is our food budget is very flexible, and we buy what we want, and we are lucky enough to have that. And when we decide to cut other things, it's going to be cutting, soccer jerseys or something like that. It's not going to be food.
Well, you could cut out the Manchester City jersey.
Oh, yeah, no, we don't. We are not a city household, but we'll keep an eye on that. And actually, if people want to delve into this more, especially if you're going to be at Brandstorm in San Diego in a couple of weeks, you will be leading a session that's going to be talking about how marketers and the produce industry can help respond and react and get ahead of some of these things to position ourselves with consumers to make sure that we stay at the top of their grocery lists. So stay tuned for more on that.
Since next week will be the one right before that, maybe we'll dig a little deeper into next week's Week in Review.
For sure. Until then, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter twice a day, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.